Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another video. I've got a great guest on the channel today, Football London's Chelsea reporter, Adam Newson. Adam is a great guy. He's a great writer as well. I've referenced his articles in my videos before. As you can expect, we're talking about the European Super League. We're talking about the future of English football. We're speaking about the groundbreaking news. I mean, even tonight's game against Brighton feels a little bit irrelevant to what has gone on in recent days. And our discussion is not only about his reaction to the European Super League, what it could entail, the repercussions of it, the way supporters across the country from all different clubs, including those involved, have reacted so strongly against it. But his letter, his open letter that he wrote for Football London yesterday to Roman Abramovich, the link to that letter, to that open letter that I definitely suggest you go and read, will be in the description box below. So please go and read that. We speak about that. We speak about the future of Chelsea, the conflict because of what Roman has brought to Chelsea, the years of success and the wonderful memories we all have, and the things we're so grateful to Roman for, but also what it is now and why fans are so angry about the owners of this club and what they've done in involving themselves in the European Super League. The positive of fans uniting potentially on something for once on social media at Chelsea, despite the civil war in recent years over managers and players, and just the future of this season, the rest of this season. Does it have that much meaning after the European Super League announcement? I hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button if you do. Get down involved in the comments. This is such a big story that is so mad and continues to develop, that may change the game as we know it. So Adam, thank you so much for joining me on this Tuesday morning. I don't know where to start this conversation because I wish we could be having this conversation on the channel because, of course, you're on me and Jay's podcast last week. We were talking about Porto, the excitement over the Champions League and the FA Cup semi-final, which, of course, went very well for Chelsea.
Yeah.
But we can't speak about anything else because this threatens the future of Chelsea Football Club. It threatens the future of the English game, the European game. It's a massive question because there's so many parts you could get into, and it's a very broad question. But just your reaction to the European Super League, Chelsea's involvement in it, and just sort of the mess that's followed since then.
Yeah, that Porto game feels a long, long time ago now. Yeah, obviously when news started filtering out on Sunday, I was very aware that this could be brinkmanship again. We've seen this threat before several times, and it hasn't ever really led to anything. But I think as Sunday progressed, it sort of became clearer that no, these guys mean business this time. And I think everybody probably was waiting around at 9:30 and then 10:30, and eventually, obviously, the statement came out around 11:30, which I don't know if that was a time for an American audience or if it was timed for, or just the fact that they wanted to try and get it through late at night when people weren't around for the reaction, obviously. But I mean, yeah, it is a seismic decision. It is one which has the potential to irreversibly change football. The reports are, and from what I can glean, is that Chelsea did get into this quite late. The plans were going ahead. And Chelsea jumped on board late on, not to essentially not miss out. Does that make it any better? Not really. Chelsea could have really taken a stand. It would have been great if Chelsea and Manchester City and Tottenham maybe really did say, no, we're not going to get involved in this. And maybe that cuts the legs out of it quite early. But without getting into the greed of football owners and that kind of thing, I mean, fundamentally, yeah, this does change what Chelsea as a football club could be. And given the history of Chelsea Football Club, and, there's an element, I suppose, into this there's 2 eras, or not even 2 eras, but there's 2 parts to Chelsea Football Club now. There is the 98-year history before Roman Abramovich, and there is the sort of 20 or 18-year history since Roman Abramovich. And, they are fundamentally different. Chelsea are far more successful under Roman than they were ever before. And there are some fans who have grown up on that and understandably love that. They love that Chelsea win all the time. They love that Chelsea are in FA Cup finals, are in Champions League semi-finals. But I guess this goes back to something that we saw come out yesterday about, does the club value what we, quote unquote, legacy fans, or do they want to target the new supporters? And Yeah, I have a fundamental dislike for that legacy fans title, just because, as we say, Chelsea haven't always been like this, but fans always went. Fans helped save Stamford Bridge, 40 years ago. These are guys who, these are men and women who put their own money into the club to help keep it alive, with Chelsea pitch owners and things like that. You cannot disregard them. You cannot understate their importance or how important they are. And I think this has the potential to alienate and disenfranchise an awful lot of those fans. And, of course, a lot of the younger fans who also feel the same way, who understand or have that different connection, who understand it's not always about winning.
Yeah, there is a lot, Matt. It's a seismic change. I mean, as you demonstrate today, like this legacy fan thing, which nearly made me throw my laptop against the wall. When I read it, because it's something I think we've known. I think there's a lot about this, just like we saw with Project Big Picture, in terms of the entitlement of the big clubs, this entitled belief that there are big clubs who are supposed to be at the top of the game. We've seen this before. I think the view about fans has always been something that either has been acted upon, or sort of we've seen demonstration of, whether it be ticket prices, the price of kits, the sort of the way clubs act. Because I don't know if you feel about this, because I feel there's sometimes this belief that clubs don't understand what supporters mean, but I feel they do know what supporters mean, and they do know the worth of supporters, or at least they understand how much supporters care about their club, because they're cynical enough to exploit that love and passion on a regular basis. I've never bought the idea these people don't know what it means to be a supporter. Maybe I'm being naive, but I think they exploit that because they know that they can do. It's an abusive relationship. They know they can treat supporters awfully, but they know supporters trust. They know the people who love this club and treat it like a religion, which is what it is for many people across this country. That's something that hurts us as well. I don't think these are cynical people who know what it means, and that's the position they've put Chelsea fans and Arsenal, Man United, Man City, and Tottenham fans in the past couple of days.
Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely agree. Football clubs know how supporters feel about their club. They know the passion. They know the tribalism, and they play up to it. They, as we've seen over the past year and a bit, every other week maybe you'll get a tweet or a post on social media about, we miss the fans. It would be great to have the fans here. It's so sad that Stamford Bridge is empty. But I do wonder how much the pandemic has proved to football clubs, basically, that people will watch football no matter if a stadium is empty, because you can put on your fake crowd noise. You can make it pretend, basically, that this happens. And I wonder if that has influenced clubs and made them go, actually, we don't need the match-going fans, because we can create a spectacle, or essentially a TV show at this point that does the same job. And yeah, football clubs do know what the fans mean, and some appreciate that probably better than others, and some take that into account more than others. But I think it's quite clear from the decision made by these very, very big clubs that they at heart will not consult the fans about the very, very biggest things, because they know. Chelsea would have known, and every other club in this would have known, if they had started an open consultation or had a discussion with fans and said, look, this is what we're planning, what do you think? They will have known that the majority of those people would have gone, not a chance, which is why they didn't do it. They didn't speak to a single fan about this. And that, I think, is again what sticks for a lot of people, is the sheer selfishness of it all, the sheer, as we said earlier, the greed of it all, to just disregard the people who keep the club going. And I heard the term earlier, and it's Roman Abramovich is the owner of Chelsea, but at the end of the day, he is a custodian of Chelsea. He is the guy who is in that position at the moment. He wasn't for 98 years before, and it's the same for a lot of these clubs. FSG weren't at Liverpool until a decade ago, and the Glazers weren't at Manchester United until 2004, 2005. These clubs have been going long, long before these guys were here, and will be going long after them. I'm hopeful or sure of that. And it seems completely, as I say, it seems selfish that the actions of these people are potentially going to change a club's future, when the reality is they probably won't be here in 40, 50 years time, when the club and the fans still will be.
Yeah, I think that's the point. And I think there has been this feeling, of course, because of what Roman has brought to the club, the way he transformed Chelsea, the way he basically saved Chelsea in the summer of 2003. You know, I've been very blessed due to my age to basically watch the Roman years. I mean, my first game was in August 2003. My first season was Roman's first season. So I've been very lucky to witness the greatest years in Chelsea's history in terms of the success, you know, in terms of what he's brought. And it is maybe this conflict over recent days of what Roman has brought to Chelsea, the way he's transformed, given us some amazing days because of his investment, because of the amazing players we've been able to buy and the amazing players we've been able to keep. But you wrote this open letter to Roman yesterday, and I just want to read a little bit of a segment from it. Sorry to read back your own words to you, but just for the viewers here, and definitely suggest in a link below, please go and read the article. You said that Roman, this decision irreversibly changes the club's future and devalues its past. For money alone, you will lose so much, undo so much of the excellent work you've done. There's only so much supporters, and I use that term rather than fans, will put up with. We have reached that point. And the thing I came to was that, you know, I think back to the pandemic, the first lockdown, when the club gave up the stadium to the NHS, not furloughing any of the staff. And that was a moment where I think a lot of fans felt proud to be Chelsea fans, to be supporters of the club. This is wrecking a lot of that work, lot of that good work. I don't know if you feel the same. Like that's, and just maybe detailing your open letter to Roman and what it meant, because I think it's the way a lot of fans are feeling at the moment about Abramovich, despite all of the gratitude we have due to the success.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely tarnishes a lot of everything that Chelsea have done over the past year. And yeah, that open letter wasn't that easy to write because, as you say, I'm very conflicted about Roman Abramovich. As I said, you know, I'm a little bit older than you, and I started watching Chelsea sort of mid-90s, and at that point Chelsea were just starting to have a little bit of success. You know, they won the FA Cup in '97, and they were involved in sort of not necessarily title races, but they were challenging near the top for a good couple of years. And when I first started watching, and you know, Roman did change Chelsea Football Club. He made a lot of the dreams that I had. I wanted to see Chelsea win a Premier League. I wanted to see Chelsea win a Champions League, and I've been really fortunate to do that. And don't get me wrong, I know that is because of Roman Abramovich. I remember being probably like 14 and going into that Liverpool game at the end of the 02-03 season, and you started to read things. And obviously, you know, being an aspiring football writer, you know, I used to read things, and knowing that Chelsea were in a really dire situation in that game, there was so much riding on that game, and that Chelsea won that, and you know, that led to Roman, and everything that came from then has been so special, and you know, the reality is Roman did change football by buying Chelsea. Was it the first step on the way to where we are? Maybe. I do kind of think if he didn't buy a club, someone else would have done eventually anyway, and we would have got to this point maybe a few years further down the line. But yeah, as you say, that letter was basically saying, yeah, Roman, you've done so much, and I do believe he cares about the club, about Chelsea in a way that a lot of owners don't. You look at the level of support he's given the women's team, the amount of love he's put into the academy, the amount of money he's made available to build the, you know, academy system and put in place at Cobham what they've got. You know, not every owner would do that. You know, you look at the Glazers and everyone talks about how Old Trafford needs a paint job at the very least, and it hasn't happened. You know, that wouldn't happen under Roman. But you know, for all that good, for all the NHS support, for all the anti-discrimination things that Chelsea put in place, for all of Roman sending letters out to the players after Reece James was racially abused, saying, you know, we'll support you, we'll make more money available to tackle this. It does ring a little bit hollow, or it does feel a bit tarnished when you make a decision like Chelsea have made here to essentially walk away from 116 years worth of history and what Chelsea have been about. And I do wonder what the players think. You know, that understandably not many have been willing to talk or say anything publicly, and that's completely understandable. You know, they are employees of the club at the end of the day. Same for Thomas Tuchel, who was put in a really difficult position yesterday in his press conference. But did Mason Mount grow up wanting to win a Premier League title, wanting to win a Champions League? The likelihood is that is probably almost certainly. Same for Reece James and any young footballer. You grow up wanting to win the domestic league that you're from, or you grow up wanting to win the Champions League. And this Super League kind of crushes those dreams in a way, and especially for new supporters, it changes those dreams, and for old supporters as well. And as we said, the strings to this there's so many. But the fact is, I don't want Chelsea to go into I don't want Chelsea to ever be guaranteed their place in a competition. I want Chelsea to prove that they deserve to be there. I want Chelsea to show every other Premier League club when they win a title, we are the best Premier League club in the country at the moment. We are, you can win a Champions League by not being the best team in Europe. We did that. But Chelsea proved that they deserve to be in that competition in the first place by qualifying for it. And it just seems so wrong to be able to go into a European competition when you haven't proved that, when you could theoretically finish 15th in the Premier League and then be still at the top table next year. That just seemed completely unfair, and just, I don't know, not that interesting, but it does just seem so unfair.
That's the thing. I mean, the jeopardy that's going to be taken out of this game, or of Chelsea's games, if we just focus in on Chelsea.
Yeah.
If we just go back a couple of days to the Man City FA Cup semi-final, I mean, I was pacing in front of my TV for the last 20 minutes, wrecked with nerves, just hoping we could get through that game. I don't feel I'm going to have any of that, because what does it matter if you can't get relegated from this thing? You're basically guaranteed every single season to be in it. There's no drama and jeopardy around, say, like we have currently, or at least we did have in the top four race, surrounding getting into the Champions League, the big games against Brighton and especially West Ham, and the drama of last season under Frank Lampard, all the stress I felt, as much as it's horrible at times, and I do feel like Chelsea will be the death of me. That's why we're in it. That Champions League in 2012 is such a great example and a complete opposite to what this European Super League represents, because despite the fact that we'd invested so much, it took so long to win that competition with a squad that probably wasn't the strongest of the Roman era, to be honest, despite the fact it had some incredible individuals within it, and how much we fought and scrapped to win that, the narrative, the emotion. When people say this is like an evolution of the game, I just completely disagree. It's regressive. It's completely turning. I said it on, I think I said it on Twitter on my podcast yesterday with Jay. I said that the WWE will have more sporting integrity than the European Super League, because it's what is there to gain from this? What is there for fans to just buy into, other than it being the International Champions Cup that we get most summers played out over a season? There's no integrity to me.
Yeah, that's the perfect word for it. And as you say, tonight Chelsea played Brighton, and after Man City at the weekend, I was like, right, okay, great. It's a great win for Chelsea. We were in another FA Cup final, but I was like, right, Brighton on Tuesday, that's a big game. Like, it's not against Barcelona, it's not against Real Madrid, it's not against any of these lot, but it is a big game for Chelsea. Just like West Ham on Saturday is a big game, and a lot of people have. Well, not a lot of people, that's unfair, but a few people have responded on Twitter to me when I've posted things saying, oh, this is just the Champions League. It's just a Champions League, and it's not just a Champions League. This will fundamentally change the Premier League. And as you said, tonight's game would mean nothing. Chelsea can't win the title at this point, so it means nothing. The same as Liverpool's game last night against Leeds would mean nothing. And it's the same in the Super League. What happens if... And I think this is the reality that probably not a lot of people have really considered. What happens if Chelsea go into this Super League and tank in it every year? Every year, Chelsea get paid X amount of money. They invest poorly, which, isn't inconceivable. We've done it before. And they're bad the next year. And then the next year, there's no recrimination for that. Chelsea will still get their boatload of money. But will fans... How quickly will fans be like, oh, actually, no, I don't enjoy this. I don't enjoy seeing us losing to Barcelona, Real Madrid every season. I don't enjoy us finishing bottom of our league table in this European Super League. And, to be cynical about it, if you look at a club like Arsenal, Arsenal make a lot of money as a club that they don't spend. And my fear for any fan is that your club is going to make so much money without needing to be competitive that they just accept mediocrity. They don't need to get better. They don't have to improve because they know they are guaranteed so much money at this point. And then that reality for fans may hurt a lot more because nobody wants to watch their team lose every week or get beaten every other week by another European team. For all the top six in the Premier League, they win more than they lose, or at least they avoid defeat more than they should. But I do worry about this reality for some clubs because there is naturally going to be clubs in this. If everyone gets the same pot to start out with, Real Madrid commercially makes so much more money than Chelsea do. And it's the same for Manchester United. And there will still be levels to this European Super League. There will still be the richest clubs at the top and then the sort of richest clubs at the bottom. Can those richest clubs at the bottom really compete against those at the very top?
What does it matter anyway if they can compete? What's there to win? Because there's nothing to lose. What's there actually to win? It denigrates winning the European Super League, in whatever way that is. Would it be done? I mean, as many people have talked about, and it's obvious, this has very much American influence. I'm not an expert in terms of American sport, but, it very much feels like it wants to go in that direction where you don't have relegation, where there probably would be a playoff system, you'd imagine, at the end of the season where... And, a bit like the, Americans call, is it baseball? I think it is the World Series when it's, I think with the exception of maybe one Canadian team, it's only American teams in it. It's that sort of mentality where you don't have relegation, you don't have Jeopardy. And it's running away from competition. Chelsea, the reason why beating Atletico back in March was so important and such a massive win for this club was because for 7 years we hadn't progressed past the last 16. In some of those years, we hadn't even made the Champions League. It's the absolute scandal of it that these clubs feel that, we don't even want the fear of being competitive. The fact that a club like Arsenal, who can't be competitive anymore on a whether you think it's a fair battleground or not, in terms of just look at Leicester, a better run club, better transfers, better coaching, better players, a better team that, the second year in a row they're going to finish comfortably above Arsenal. Yeah. And there's this entire belief at Arsenal and Tottenham and Chelsea and Man City, Man United and Liverpool that it doesn't matter. We should just be above you anyway. That I just think is absolutely disgusting. I think that you just touched on it there about sort of the internal reaction, because I can't believe that players, there have been threats, and maybe these threats from UEFA and FIFA aren't that serious in the end, and they're just like, because it's been such a mess of a few days, it's just like people just throwing out as many crazy statements as possible, and there actually isn't weight to it. I cannot believe the likes of Mason Mount, Christian Pulisic, Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, not only in terms of a club stage of being prevented from potentially winning a Champions League this season if we get thrown out, but also the international stage. I mean, not competing at a World Cup and a Euros. I mean, the threat of that, I can't believe these elite sportsmen at the top of their game are happy about their careers and the integrity of their careers being jeopardized.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, as I say, it's hard to get people to talk at the moment for obvious reasons, and be that, people around the players or whatnot. But yeah, that threat is an interesting one. And, you do wonder, as you say, if it's just been made as a sort of angry reaction to what's happened. But there's going to be so many legal battles over this. If it does continue to progress as they want it to, there's going to be so many legal battles, and it will be very interesting. And, I read a piece in The Athletic yesterday saying that a lot of players' contracts are based around the fact, and I think it's worded, they compete in European UEFA competitions, or they beat in, Premier League competition. And then there's the if that's the case, then do these contracts become voided, or do they have to be renegotiated? And if you're going to have to renegotiate contracts when you're meant to be receiving 350 odd million, does that mean players will then be able to ask for a hell of a lot more for money? And yeah, the legal ramifications of this, I think, could drag on for months and months. In their initial statement yesterday, they said, they wanted to try and get this up and running by August. I don't really feasibly see how that's possible. But the more instant ramifications of this seem that Chelsea could, and I'm not entirely certain they will be, but they could be kicked out of this season's Champions League, which, again, I don't think that can happen. I'm sure the people in charge of Chelsea, Manchester City, and Real Madrid would have looked into this and gone, "Oh no, we are safe. We're not going to get booted out of it." Which it would be a great shame on Chelsea's part, given the sort of moments we've had on away so far. But say Chelsea go on and win it, as there's the potential for not being able to defend it. And I really, from a fan's perspective, I really want us to obviously win the Champions League, but I want us to defend the Champions League, because the last time we won the Champions League and tried to defend it, we went out of the group stage. So it'd be kind of nice to try and defend it in a much stronger way. And yeah, I can't imagine a lot. Not every single player is going to be against this. I imagine quite a lot will be, for the points we mentioned earlier. And players grow up dreaming of winning certain competitions, and this has the potential to really alter those dreams.
Just in terms of the players, I know Tuchel in his press conference, I think, other than of course being asked about the Super League, which I said it in my video last night, an impossible position to be put in as any coach. I think at the moment they shouldn't have to answer for the actions of those above them, and I didn't expect a big answer from Tuchel, to be honest. And I do wonder as well, Klopp was a little bit more strong on this. Maybe he had more time to prepare, and I was thinking this, that Klopp, because of his importance to Liverpool and how big and how long he's been there, I do wonder if Tuchel too has only been here 3 months, and his 18-month contract. Maybe Klopp feels a little bit more freedom and leverage because of how much he means to Liverpool and what he's brought them, compared to Tuchel, despite all of his good work and what Chelsea are as a club. There is a more disposable element maybe there, and on top of that too. I just wonder the players psychologically, because Tuchel said, they could be affected, and I expect them to be affected for tonight's game against Brighton. What do you think some of those players, because surely, they're human beings as well. They're going to be up to date with all of this. I'm sure they're going to be having conversations in their WhatsApp groups or when they're training. What does their mindset go? Are they just able to switch off and go, well, it's Champions League, we'll just act like nothing else is happening after this? Or is that going to affect their sort of mentality? Because their futures have been thrown up in the air in recent days as well.
Yeah, as just on the Jurgen Klopp thing, as you say, he's been there, coming up 5 years. He's won them a European Cup. He's won them the Premier League that the club dreamed about having. He is in a far, far stronger position to make his feelings known whilst still trying to toe a party line. I thought it was, the first question he was asked yesterday was, "You said this in 2019 that you were against the Super League. What do you think now?" And he said, "My thoughts haven't changed," which I think was as much as you needed to know about his opinion on it. Tuchel is 3 months in. He's got an 18-month contract. He's at Chelsea. He is seen as far more dispensable than Jurgen Klopp is to Liverpool. Could you imagine the reaction from Liverpool fans if FSG decided to ditch Klopp because he wasn't in favour of this? It would go south for them very, very quickly. But yeah, Tuchel said yesterday, and I think it's important that Chelsea do act on what he said. He said that maybe the players do have to be spoken to about this from someone at the top of the club. Maybe they do have to have things explained to them a bit more about why this is happening, because otherwise, maybe there is a risk that Chelsea go into tonight's game, and we'll probably learn a bit about the players' mentality tonight, because if they go in and blitz Brighton as they did, against Palace, they have a wonderful opening 30 minutes and then they go 3-0 up inside 30 minutes again, then you can kind of say, okay, cool, this isn't going to hugely, hopefully affect what the players go out and do on the pitch over the next few weeks. But if you have a sort of sluggish performance, a not disinterested performance, but a performance where you can just feel something isn't right, that will get picked up on quite quickly. Obviously, the fans will be able to spot that a mile off. You can't fool the fans at the end of the day. And then that probably does lead to a bigger question. And, say Chelsea lose tonight or Chelsea drop points tonight, you can bet Thomas Tuchel will be asked in the press conference afterwards as to whether he thinks that this Super League stuff has influenced them. And as you say, Tuchel said the players do need to be spoken to about this. They need the situation to be laid out to them so they know and they can feel a level of maybe not reassurance, but they can understand where the club is going and what direction things are headed. Because otherwise, as you say, the potential is there for them to feel they don't have to try for the next few games because they already know they're going to be in the biggest competition in Europe next season.
Well, and also because, and I want to come on to this, like supporter and sort of belief at this point, because supporter action, I mean, one of the positive things, I guess, if you want to be really optimistic and maybe quite naive about this in a sense, is that this is the first thing I've seen in a while that has not only united football fans across the country from different rival clubs, but specifically Chelsea fans who it feels like have been divided on social media for a few years. I mean, this in a positive way could be one of those things that unites people that I felt were going to be divided forever, at least for a short period of time. We don't know how long this thing's going to last for, if it will be overturned, if the European Super League gets battered away quickly, and then we go back to our civil war as we usually have. Do you think that could be a positive? Because at least I'm now seeing a bit more unity than there has been in recent years in terms of Chelsea fans online.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it kind of makes the Jorginho, Mason Mount debates feel very, very insignificant at the end of the day. I think it does have the potential to unite a lot of people. That there are still obviously going to be some fans who don't mind this European Super League stuff, and they're entitled to feel that. I would fundamentally disagree with them, but it's their opinion, the same as it's mine. I'm very interested to see what happens tonight before the game. As you say, a lot of rival fans have come together over this, and Liverpool fans have asked for banners and flags to be taken down from the Kop. Chelsea fans have reacted in kind in terms of having any banners in the shed and the Matthew Harding taken down. We'll obviously, I'm at the game tonight, so we'll be able to see if that has actually happened. There is a protest planned outside the game, and say I'll be there to see what happens with that as well. And I do think there will be quite a strong element of Chelsea. I do think there'll be quite a big group of Chelsea fans at Stamford Bridge tonight, and that alone will show the strength of feeling, because we've had one big decision from the club which was unpopular among a big section of the fan base in sacking Frank Lampard, but the reaction to this will be 10 times bigger, and I'm very interested to see what the sort of protest is like tonight and how it goes forward on social media, because like it or not, social media does have power over clubs, and a fan base can really rally on social media in a completely universal way across the world. And you'd like to think that if enough people continuously protest against this, argue against this, show that they don't want this, maybe it's naive of me, but hopefully the club start to take notice of that and realise the as damage they're doing. As you know, I saw on Twitter earlier, Jay said he's not watching the game tonight. And, Jay far better than I do, but Jay is a very ardent Chelsea fan. He is a very passionate Chelsea fan. He loves the club. But if he's feeling that disenfranchised, he will not be the only one.
Yeah. Yeah, there's even people. I was listening to a podcast you guest on quite regularly, the Chelsea Fancast. They were having sort of, in a joking way, but speaking about clubs in their local areas that they could go and support, and give their financial support to, whether that was as big as, say, a club like Fulham in the Championship, or even non-league clubs local to them. And I know that there are some Chelsea fans already thinking about that I've heard, and it's crazy. Like, unfortunately, there's a lot of whataboutery at the moment, and there's a lot of people who will pick out inconsistencies and arguments against the European Super League, whether it's people who work for Sky, whether it's people who support clubs like Chelsea fans that have big owners that have invested a lot, and trying to blame those people. But I think that if you're a supporter, as I said in my video yesterday, if you're a supporter that is maybe in favour of the European Super League for whatever reason, and that's your opinion, wonder why like 99% of your fellow supporters are against this so angrily, and I think that's something that should be of concern to fans. And I do hope it can unify people. I mean, do you think in some ways like Chelsea Supporters Trust has got a lot of new members, which is great? I'm an affiliate member to it. I was, leaving links in the description box below yesterday. I've heard people who I've known for a long time have finally joined the Supporters Trust. Do you think on that front it could force a little bit more unified? As Gary Neville was basically, it was almost like a war cry in a sense last night on TV. It was wonderful, saying that there needs to be activism now. There needs to be unity rather than being fearful or feeling sick, which a lot of us are. To really mobilise now and understand what's important about saving our clubs.
Yeah, I think the fact that I think the Chelsea Supporters Trust has now had 50% more sign-ups than
I thought it was 50%. I thought it's 24%. I read from Nazar yesterday.
Unless I'm getting the tweet wrong, I saw. But I think that shows the strength of feeling towards this. As you say, there are going to be people who are in favour and they're entitled to that opinion. But there are enough people against this to really highlight why it's a bad thing. I would like to think, again, like we said, I'd like to think the club does look at the strength of feeling. It does look at people signing up to the Supporters Trust, maybe becoming more interested in Chelsea pitch owners, and look at that and go, yeah, okay, maybe we have made a mistake here. And, there have been some reports, and I haven't heard this personally, but there have been some reports that Chelsea are a little bit shaken by the reaction to this, which is obviously a very good thing if that is the case. But the fear or the problem, I guess, is at the end of the day, Roman Abramovich has the keys to the club. He is the guy in control, and he has listened to supporters a lot in the past. He's not got everything right. He has made mistakes. He tried to do a grab of the Chelsea pitch owners and take control back of Stamford Bridge a few years ago. He has sacked managers that we wouldn't, as supporters, wouldn't want sacked. He brought in Rafa Benitez when I don't think any of the fan base wanted that at all. So he has made decisions that go against the fans' wishes. But I would like to think, and again, maybe I'm being naive, but I would like to think that enough fans mobilise and show that they do not want this, that eventually the club realises. But yeah, maybe I am just being naive or too hopeful.
But do you think even if it was stopped, the damage just by this decision, just by Chelsea involving themselves in that statement on Sunday, is going to be so damaging to the relationship between supporters and the club now? It's going to be very hard to reconcile, even if it does get stopped in its track, like the other times we've feared that the European Super League was around the corner.
That is a very good question. Potentially, yes. I guess it would depend on how quickly things change. If Chelsea were to pull out, obviously we're recording this on a Tuesday morning, if Chelsea were to pull out later today or maybe tomorrow, then you could kind of look at it and go, okay, they made that decision. You can't escape that. You have to live with that decision the same way any of us do in life. When you make a major decision, you have to live with that and live with the consequences of that. There will be a lot of people who do not forgive you or do not trust you anymore. Whether or not it would be enough to bring a lot of supporters back, I think, supporters are going to support the team, maybe not the club, if that makes sense. Again, but yeah, it's a really hard question. I think if Chelsea were able to react quickly to this, there is still time to prove that they made the wrong decision. I don't think if they were to all do it en masse, I think that looks a lot cheaper than maybe Chelsea or a Manchester City pulling out early and going, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. Whether you can forgive them for that mistake is a rather bigger question. It would be nice to think that some can. It would be nice to think that at some point we all can forgive them. Whether or not everyone could, I don't know, because this has shown that there is a level of greed at the very top of football. Football is there is greed in football. There's always been greed in football, to be honest. As soon as it became really profitable, there's always people who want to make money. The Premier League makes so much money. UEFA makes so much money. And there are people who profit from that and want more. But I guess this level of greed has crossed the line now. to a lot of people. And yeah, some won't be able to forgive that, others will. But I do think it will be a case of how quickly Chelsea rectify what they've done potentially.
I guess we just have to see what happens. I mean, I do think that I'd like to see a boycott of, say, the new kit when it inevitably gets released in a month's time, not only because it's an awful kit, but, it's just on top of that, I'd like to see fans do that, stop buying the merch, or at least for a sizable amount of people to stop buying the merchandise, to stop investing in the club, and just falling for the trap of that sort of commercialism, constantly. And I think that would be something I'd find quite interesting, just to let the club know, even if they do backtrack publicly, to let them know this is still our club of supporters, and I think that would make a massive stand. Whether it would happen to a sizable, enough of an impact to actually make a dent, because I mean, Chelsea, and this is the sentiment behind the European Super League of all these clubs, they're looking at an international audience. They're not looking at the London-based fans or the English-based fans. That's something that, despite the fact you could argue that if all Chelsea fans in London and all Chelsea fans in a sizable portion of the south of England stop buying football shirts from Chelsea, is that going to make a dent for Chelsea financially? I mean, I'm not a financial expert, but I'd say the clubs could still turn around and be very cynical and go, well, we can still make all the money across America, across Asia, as well.
Yeah, hopefully that goes back into what we were saying earlier about this potentially uniting a fan base in a very unique way. And it would be nice to think that the worldwide Chelsea fan base could really do a mass protest like that to say, no, we are not going to buy the new kit. That would be a really great way to show Chelsea that you cannot just take everyone for granted. And I think, it is a lazy argument that people in America or Australia or Africa or Asia don't care about Chelsea in the same way. I do think you could be as passionate and as loyal and as dedicated a supporter if you live in Sydney, in the same way as if you walk down to Stamford Bridge every other weekend. I think you can have that level of support, but I guess if everyone was to get on the same page and, as you say, boycott the kit or not buy merchandise, that would kind of prove to everybody that, these guys, they do get it. They feel the same way we feel. And it might, as you say, unite the fan base in a really unique and special way for the future.
Very, I guess, depressing final question, but, does the meaning of the rest of the season, does it have any importance? I mean, because, the way I feel about the top four, the way I even feel about the FA Cup, the reason I wanted to win the FA Cup this year was mainly because supporters could be inside Wembley in the FA Cup final, and there is that opportunity there. I don't think we're going to get kicked out of the FA Cup. I think that we may just be able to make the final. But does it matter? I mean, the top four race, Liverpool's draw against Leeds last night, usually I'd be celebrating Leeds' late equaliser, but you celebrate it because it's a goal against Liverpool, but then you instantly think, well, does any of this matter? Does the top four race that we're told is so important to Chelsea Football Club actually matter? And there's almost a really cynical part of me that goes, I'd prefer a club who actually want to be involved in the competition, get our place, which is not something I would be saying 2 days ago, but that's the reality we find ourselves in right now.
Yeah, I mean, going into tonight's game, I think I will have mixed feelings. Obviously, I'm very fortunate to be able to attend the game and be inside Stamford Bridge. And whilst, the element of me is, be professional, you're there to report on the game. If Chelsea score, it's hard not to feel a little bit of happiness or excitement from that as a fan. I can't escape that really. But, as you say, tonight, you don't really know what a win means. If Chelsea win, then cool, they're back in the top four. That's really good. That's in theory where Chelsea need to be, but maybe not. And it does alter how the next few weeks, especially in the Premier League and the Champions League, it just completely alters your feelings on the games and how you react to them. And until we have any clarity over the situation, until we know whether or not there'll be a Champions League next year or a Super League next year, who knows what every win in the Premier League means? Who knows if it is a step towards getting into Europe next season, or if it's just a sort of facade at this point that Chelsea are going through. And I do think it will change a lot of supporters' reactions. after games, we can sort of feel that excitement after every Chelsea win. You know, it's interesting to see the reactions I get on social media. Obviously, you know, if I put out a tweet after a Chelsea win, there's usually a lot of, you know, chat around it or traction on it or whatever. If Chelsea lose, it's not, no one seems to really care as much because everyone's a bit disappointed and want to just sort of get away from football Twitter or anything for a few hours because they're, you know, when they want to sort of gather their feelings on a defeat. And I'm interested to see in the coming weeks if the strength of feeling after a win is there as much, because as we say, we don't know what it means. And for us as supporters, that's awful. And for the players, as we mentioned, that must be, unless they're given some clarity on it, that must be completely confusing to walk off a pitch after a game and not know really what you've just achieved or what the ramifications of it are.
Well, you know, we just have to see what happens. I mean, it's such a fast-moving situation. I mean, I think that by the time tomorrow rolls round, even tonight with Chelsea and Brighton, there's, you know, obviously the protest at Stamford Bridge, seeing what happens there. There'll be a lot of coverage around that, which I'm sure you'll be involved with, of course, covering the game, seeing what Tuchel says after the game. And, you know, Chelsea may not even be in the Champions League by the end of this week. So a lot can happen. Thank you so much, Adam, for joining me. I know, obviously, you had the piece yesterday about which we discussed today, the open letter to Roman, but I believe you've got another piece coming out, or it may have been released while we've been speaking, which is about another topic, of course, focusing around the European Super League. So if you want to promote that, where people can find your work online as well.
Yeah, I'm obviously at the Football London website, at Adam Newson on Twitter. The piece that came out was essentially what we've been talking about why tonight's game should matter and why the fact that it is against Brighton is important, and you don't have to have a game against Real Madrid for matches to feel important. These games against smaller opposition can feel just as important as the very, very biggest games, and that is probably, I think, everything that a Super League will not have. You will not have that sense of this matters. That's on the Football London website, and I've obviously tweeted out this morning. So if you could read it, everyone, I'd be very much appreciated.
All the links to Adam's work will be in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. Have a great day, and I'll see you again.